Hi, everyone. Christina Samet here with Frontier Leadership, and my co-host, Chetna. Would you like to introduce yourself?
My name is Chedna. I'm the owner of Chedna Portrait Stories, a boutique photography studio based in Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
Love it. Thank you. And, we're excited. We were actually trying to do a bit of an Instagram live today, and that didn't work out for us. So we decided to record with a tried and true way that we know how to deliver. But we wanted to come on and share a little more excitement and details about our upcoming masterclass on Monday, October 20th, for Raising Your Profile, a free masterclass for women leaders. And, today we want to open the discussion a little bit about visibility and why we're here, why we're both coming to the table to, passionately share both of our expertise and communicate to women and any men who want to join us on the call on Monday why this is such an important topic, an area, why it's right for it. So to give us a little structure, I'm going to jump in and we're going to answer some questions. I think, Chetna, you have the first question for me if you want to. Do you recall that one, or I can answer it myself?
Um, if you've got it there, actually,
Okay,
until I pull it up.
that's okay. It's really, it's okay. I can jump in.
You've got-
Yeah, it's all good. It's really about why we're doing this. Why now? Why this master class? And you know, uh, for those of you who don't know me, as the founder and CEO of Frontier Leadership, I have been developing high performance leadership programs for women in leadership since about 2010. A really long journey in starting and cultivating that path for women, for gender, and for high performance leadership and the infrastructures that women need that are a little bit different and are a little bit in a bit of a different landscape. And so, over the last few years, I would say, particularly post pandemic, as people start to come out of their shells a little more, continue to work with incredible women with exceptional worth and value. And that's really at the heart of all of our programs around negotiating your worth and learning your value. But, what we really see is that we're not 100% giving a holistic picture around the visibility piece and what that means for professional confidence, what that means for personal confidence. And so we see parts of women who are, very confident in their value in their work, but then sometimes question their career advancement or their career business journey. And so there seemed to be a lot of pattern, both from some of the regressive effects of the pandemic and also the DEI landscape that has been changing, and that women are feeling a little more systemic barriers. I think that given the fall, and this time of year, a lot of women and leaders are thinking forward about what's next. How do they want to come out in 2026, and what needs to change in their current landscape? And so these topics are coming up of working hard, working too hard, proving their work or their worth, and we don't want them to do that. And just how can they step into more strategic visibility? And so I'm really excited to put this conversation back on the table in a way that works for a lot of women and men based on whatever industry you're in, whatever business that you're building, and how perhaps you can claim some of that back and really shift and stand a little bit more in your value with confidence. Chedna, do you have any thoughts to add to that about why
No,
you're
I
doing
love it.
it?
I think it's very well said. I think you are, the expert in your field, and I'm very honored and grateful to be invited to be a part of this. I think our services are, empower women in similar ways, just in different formats or platforms.
Absolutely. And that's why the collaboration is there for a larger holistic picture from both sides of the journey, which kind of brings us to you, right? And I'm just so fascinated by your work, Jenna, and your ability to see women who, I think we both do that, who can't see themselves maybe in this moment. And you work with many leaders and professionals through your portraits, both on the professional and on the personal side. It's a wonderful portfolio. And what do you notice about how visibility and confidence show up in the way that people represent themselves from your work?
Well, Christina, I see it all the time. I see incredible women, successful women that have achieved, a lot in their careers. And they come to the studio expressing feelings like, I simply just don't look like myself in images. I don't feel the images do me justice. I don't like being the center of attention. I really, dislike being in front of the camera. I don't know what to do with my body, with my expression. So often that comes from past experiences where they've been either, overly posed, or they've been retouched beyond recognition, or maybe the experience was just impersonal or it was rushed and they simply were not seen for who they really are as individuals, right? And I think those experiences, have a way of changing our own self-perception and how we see ourselves. It chips away at our confidence and our desire to want to be visible, right? So I think the beautiful thing is that I see real transformations in my studio as we work together and build trust and kind of navigate through some of those feelings. And what I'm personally passionate about and dedicated to is helping women, reconnect with their own image, actually seeing themselves as others see them. And that's not about perfection. It's about truth. It's about being present and it's about being intentional. So when a woman sees an image that actually feels like her for the first time, strong, grounded, capable, whatever that is, and she feels like her energy and smile are actually genuine, then you see something shift in the way that she kind of processes that, right? And I think that's exactly what this masterclass is about. It's learning to show up with intention, with authenticity and presence, and not just in photographs, but in every space that women occupy and where they lead.
Yeah. What I love about what you said is, an image speaks a thousand words, right? And so it's this idea that, I do this with a lot of women in their language, right? They don't have the language and the skills to be congruent and to be that leader, or they might fall back from it. And so, let alone, I mean, I've been there in photography over the years where it might take me even a couple glasses of wine, dare I say, to peel back the layer and to be
You're not the only
comfortable,
one, yeah, for
right?
sure.
Yeah, and so there's a fear, and so it's just interesting the double parallel of how it's working, because if the photo is final, it's final, and so then you might have it captured, just like if you're doing a presentation and you didn't nail it, right? And then there's that reputation that's on the line, and so we're in many ways building women and building leaders from the inside out, and in capturing that, both in their positioning, in their brand value, and also as they present themselves to others. So again, just seeing the ties of how these juncture points kind of work together. And so that really, if you are joining us on Monday, or even if you're listening to this as a bit of a replay, you can kind of see where you fit in with your experiences. And that kind of brings us to the next question that, we're both going to share about, why do you think so many women, experienced leaders, professionals hesitate to, put themselves out there to be more visible? What's kind of behind that for you?
I think for me, for women, visibility often feels very vulnerable, right? I think that even most accomplished leaders, CEOs, board members that I've worked with, executives and such, often carry past experiences where being seen didn't feel safe. So that could have been, they felt judged, misunderstood, or simply not represented authentically, as I spoke about. So over time, you shrink a little bit, right? And women often feel that having proper portraits sometimes is kind of like this indulgent, unnecessary thing. Like, why do I need it? Why can't I just get,
Hmm.
a corporate headshot? So there's a layer of perfectionism as well, and this pressure to look and sound or show up certain ways. So when you add all these things together, I think it's never really, and we've never seen an image of ourselves that feels true. It's hard to believe that visibility can be empowering because it feels so exposing in so many ways. So I love trying to rewrite that experience. And I think when women finally see a professional image or a personal image that feels truly like them, it
Yeah,
then gives them permission to take up space and to be visible and to actually be proud of it. So that's really the intent of it.
I love it. And some of the words, right off the cuff, first, just giving yourself permission to have this experience and seeing it really as part of your growth and development.
Absolutely.
And on top of that, you talked about previous past failures, right? And in my work in leadership, we really look at your relationship with failure in regards to leadership, and all of us also, over the last decade, helping women, and we'll talk about this on Monday, really understand the landscape, because many don't. Many think they see a portion of it and then they tackle the problem, but they don't realize it's a lot bigger. And as we look at self-doubt, imposter syndrome, that was really big in 2014, moving on, right? influence. This is a big word that's really used with women, right? But what does it mean? And what does that strategic influence look? How do you build that? How do you build that into conversations and relationships, and how it all kind of ties together? And for me, around the positioning, the strategic positioning in conversation, and the limited language and default to what people do, and being such a strong doer and contributor that kind of takes them out, keeps them playing small. And as you said, it's all risk. At the end of the day, it's risk. And we're going to talk about that on Monday, and how you can start to take steps with that. I also think that, with this, is that I would think in the photography, and again, I know that I've experienced it, is that we grow and we change as leaders, right? So that's the other thing, is you might have one role and you nail it, and then you get photos done and you're that version of you, right? Like I was like, oh, the
Absolutely.
2019
Yeah.
version of me, right?
Yeah.
Was this, or you go and you have kids, or now you're part of C-suite, or your kids are grown and you've dedicated your lives to them, and now you're coming back saying, who am I? What do I have to offer, right? And so when we really look at the leadership foundations behind women, we're addressing all of these gaps, and this growth, because it's all about the outcome. But then it shows up visually, right? Because the women have to also change their perception of themselves physically.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. And I think, that's my experience as well, is that, there's nothing bad to be said about, the current images that we have, or our LinkedIn profiles, or, um, it's just there's a place and time for everything. And it's absolutely about this evolution and this growth and this development. And, I'm really there to kind of encourage people to see the way that they present themselves to the world as being very intentional and being very mindful, and saying, does this version of me that I'm currently putting out there actually align with and reflect with not only where I'm at, but maybe where my aspirations lie, and what the next step is that we may not even be aware of.
And what is that if you haven't done any of that work, right? So
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and that's what a lot of women feel. Amazing. So just jumping into, let's talk about what you can expect from the masterclass. Obviously, we're talking about how the masterclass might impact you today, but we do want to go over some of the high levels of what we're going to be teaching, sharing a little bit more of that outcomes-based approach, because this work is transformational, and it is something that we want to invite you and encourage you to start if you haven't, or to pick up if it's looking at a photo and saying, I got to find a new me, if it's looking at your role or looking at your work and saying, I really want to learn how to communicate my value and position that, and really build some of that brand congruency, and doing it in a way that's consistent. Again, we're really looking forward for you to attend. So right off the cuff, we are going to address that strategic visibility. And I'm excited to kind of teach visibility as a topic. I think it's something that we talk about. We talk about how we're afraid of it, but like, let's go in, let's roll up our sleeves. Let's look at some concrete, tangible, definable ways. That's from my background, around what are some of our upper limits are, why we're playing small, and what we can perhaps anchor onto. And maybe these are things that you anchored onto before, but now it's time to revisit and recommit to them to, again, help you moving forward. We're going to talk about some mindset shifts in terms of what it really takes to raise your profile. And again, I think, Chedna, you probably have a lot of insight on this as well, from seeing these transformations, and the whole follow through of the whole process and the journey. And how presence shapes your perception. And I think we're starting to talk about some of that here. But do you want to speak to just maybe a little bit about just the body language, even in what you're experiencing when women take some of the photos, how that can or cannot work against you or for you?
Yeah, so my one example that I always love is, you'll almost 90% of the time in business portraits see women that are standing with their arms crossed across
Like
their
my
body,
favorite
right?
pose.
Right. And I think photographers kind of misunderstand that. I think it's the only thing that comes to mind, trying to show that, you're
Power,
the
Amy Cuddy
boss,
power pose.
or, that you're in power. But it's actually fundamentally, when you look at body language, it is one of the most standoffish, closed off body poses that you can actually present, right? Because when we're open to hearing, engaging with somebody or hearing about them, we usually don't sit like this,
I
correct?
know.
Right.
I know.
So it's all completely opposite of what we're trying to do. So, what are the other, expressions and body language and poses that flatter women and that can show them standing in their power without these cliches, if you will. And I'm really big on not so much the pose, although that is a huge component of it. I'm really big on the expression. And
Oh,
if women are
interesting.
coached properly in how to express certain feelings and how to put intention in their look and in their face, you don't actually need much else. It comes through the face, it comes through the eyes.
Oh, I look forward to hearing more about that. And it is just so interesting at the end of the day how we feel safe in those poses, and we're really sometimes we're taught that. And I want to share with you in leadership, in the language of leadership, that I teach and that we've been cultivating for women as we shift from more collaborative to directive approaches in language. We also see a more, again, just it's an overuse. It's an overuse of the strength of a masculine or an overuse of a feminine. And then the higher you go or the more strategic, you have to switch. And it turns women inside out. And in a way, less is more. And again, we talk a little bit more about that in the language and how it shows up. So the thing that you are strong at keeps you where you are, right? That expression in leadership, what got you here won't get you there. And just really looking at how we can change that. And finally, the last part is, showcasing yourself from insight to impact, just drawing on some real transformations. Oh, I just lost you there for a second, Chedna, but you're back.
Oh, am
Um,
I back? Okay.
you're back. Yes, just this last part about drawing on some real transformations. And I guess what I want to ask you is what do you see as the real value of being able to show, from here to there in your work?
Well, Christina, I spent 20 years in corporate, right, in a corporate career before I took on this work. And I did not have the opportunities, if you will, or the privilege to, or just the awareness that programs and the teachings like what you bring exist out there as a resource for women. And I was a very hard worker and very dedicated and diligent, but I was not very intentional about what my leadership presence really meant or how I could position myself. And so I'm very I came out of that space really understanding the value of that,
Hmm.
of understanding ourselves as leaders and how we speak and how we relate to others and how we advocate for ourselves. And I took all of those learnings from that experience and kind of brought it here. And what's wonderful with women is that I can actually just really show them standing in their power, whether they really feel that power quite yet or not, or they're just on the journey. I think there's something beautiful that happens when they can recognize themselves or see themselves in a different way. And it's just enough of a stepping stone to maybe give them the impetus to sort of, move forward and to kind of build from there.
Yeah, and um, part of our approach to evidence-based, high performance leadership is around high performance learning cycles and experiential learning. And I always joke, I've been saying it for years, you need 12 to 16 of those experiential learning cycles. So, you get them from all areas of your life, personal, professional, and they keep you on the growth path or on the learning path. So you really absolutely feel that you get the experiences and the skill sets under your belt and the competencies that are working for you. And I think that's so important. And just to kind of to see that transformation and to show that it is a continuous pattern. So super excited. Again, I think it's going to be it's supposed to be a 75-minute. We're going to try because I think we both have so much to share, even about our own personal journeys. But we will be on mind for time. And so we'd love to see you there. If you have the link, which we'll share again, please feel free to share this with colleagues. And I really want to open this up. This applies to you if you are really looking to continue to build your brand, build your visibility, build your leadership foundation so that you can feel it really supporting it and the expression. When we really look at the success of high performance leaders, they go all the way to full expression. And that's just something around women's leadership development that we want to empower and encourage. And so we invite you all to come engage and learn. And we will share some opportunities at the end about how to take it further, as well as to continue your own education. I believe that we should just really empower women to constantly be educating themselves to move forward. And so excited to see you there Monday, October 20th at 11 a.m. Mountain Time. That will be 1 p.m. Eastern and 10 a.m. PST. Any closing thoughts there, Chedna?
No, I'm just really excited. I look forward to it, and I think it's a wonderful opportunity to have a real open conversation about this topic and about sort of women leadership and women empowerment in general. And I look forward to it.
Amazing. All right. Well, listen, thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you on Monday.